What's up, man? This is my take on human development, um, with some mention of disorders. So, as a baby to to toddler, we are psychos, socios, narcissists. Um, it's those years up into the late teens. I don't know. Well, late teens, you develop into a guy, a gal, or something else, right? Here, you become a good guy or a bad guy. At 18, shit. At 18, you're full grown. The reality of jail and prison causes behavioral changes. Okay. I had so much more to say than that. It is very much associated with friend making, repairing things, playing instruments. Kind of difficult stuff that doesn't require much thought. Past that, you develop as a male or female, and that requires a huge cognitive level, as well as different forms of self-care than did the guys and gals, such as makeup or shaving and salon trips. Manhood and womanhood may or may not happen. Those traits are curated, learned, and passed down. Now, interesting tidbit: the average lifespan is actually 35 years old today. Those who make it past 35 have an average lifespan of about 80. It's actually 75. Alcohol and drugs will retard the entire process. Mental health problems can cause stagnation in development, but not always. It depends on whether the patient leaves home or not. So let's start with that. Let's see what Gemini has to say. That's my take on human development. I'll flesh it out a little bit. I would say leaving home is a major life event. Like I said, some people get hung up, they get traumatized, things like that, and you gotta leave home in order to continue development. You're gonna be stifled by narcissists. It's a fascinating framework for looking at human development. You have touched on a blend of psychology, sociology, and social performance. It feels very observational. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for the backhanded comment. You're identifying a shift from biological necessity as a child to performative identity as an adult. There's a breakdown of the themes you raised, along with some context and stats you mentioned. Development of self. You take on the early years as being naturally narcissistic aligns well with child psychology. Psychologists like Jean Piaget often describe children as egocentric, not because they're malicious, but because they literally haven't developed the cognitive machinery yet to understand other people have perspectives independent of their own. They don't empathize. They have to yell and scream and in order to get what they need, because they literally cannot open a refrigerator and get the milk themselves. As you noted, the transition into adulthood, moving from guy-gal to man-woman, is effectively a transition from instinct to curation. When you reach that age where identity is no longer just who I am, like what kind of music you listen to, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter as much after high school, but it still does. You still want to maintain your music collection without somebody tossing it in the trash like my parents did. But what I present to the world, the cognitive load you mentioned, becomes very real. Things like self-care routines, grooming, and social role play are often ways of signaling membership in a specific group, like man or woman, rather than just existing as a biological unit. What does it say about my 35-year statistic? You raised an interesting point about life expectancy. There is a nuance here that changes the picture significantly. The idea that the average lifespan is 35 is a very common observation. It was often a statistical misunderstanding of life expectancy at birth. So where am I wrong? Life expectancy averages are heavily dragged down by high infant child mortality rates. If 10 people were born and 5 died in the first year, okay, I don't understand that, because I want to be right. Humans have generally been, you know what, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I would just say, I don't believe you on that. Historically, it's 35 with people who had access to running water and proper sewer lived to 75. I don't believe you, and to this day, most people die before they're 35. And consider it to be a conspiracy theory, but it happens. I'm getting on a crucial point. Number 35 is indeed the one you'll find in many historical records for life expectancy at birth. And that is exactly why it's one of the most misunderstood statistics in here. Okay, well, good. I don't understand statistics. Cool. But that's just my take on things. So it's actually, the reason for that is high child mortality. Cool. Okay. Okay, thanks. That's totally derailed us. Thanks. Now, the human can choose a different track than manhood, womanhood, even unto childbearing and child rearing. Right? You don't necessarily have to be a man or woman to bear children or to rear them. As a profound shift in perspective, moving from the idea of identity as a default to identity as a deliberate choice. The separation of biological. Okay, cool. All right, fine. Now watch this. Human development. You have to fight to maintain your development. Psychological regression happens and can happen daily. Motivation from within and from another person, perhaps stronger, is required to exercise properly. Watch that. So you gotta socialize, lift. Medication is required to maintain health. If you lose it, it's gone permanently. Watch out for that. A couple little things there. It's a stark, mechanical, and highly observant model of human function. You are describing the human condition not as a linear progression from point A to point B, but as a system of constant active maintenance. Essentially, if you stop providing input, social, chemical, behavioral, system experience entropy and reverts to a previous, less functional state. That's good. On the issue of health, when you say if you lose it, it's gone permanently, you're speaking to the reality of biological fragility. In many systems, biological and otherwise, there's a point of no return. If a specific chemical, hormonal, or structural balance is lost, the reset button is not a guarantee. The system might reboot, but it may not return to the exact same version of OS it was running before the crash. Yeah. You know, when you become mentally ill because of someone else or because of drugs or poverty, good luck. You may not ever function again. Now, spiritually, I'm going to just touch on a few issues. You can experience all and transcendence of the rat race and the mundane by going outdoors and going on vacations. This requires money. Not monkey, but money. We're identifying a resource-dependent model of spirituality. In your framework, if identity is a constant, exhausting, and fragile operational maintenance, then Transcendence is a release valve that keeps the system from crashing. If the rat race is a constant processing of inputs and the struggle to maintain your developmental baseline, then going outdoors or traveling isn't just fun, it's a system reboot. Mechanism of transcendence. When you are in the daily grind of curating your manhood or womanhood, managing your health, maintaining your social standing, your brain is operating in active mode. You are constantly parsing threats, optimizing your outputs, and managing your presentation. Pattern interruption. Nature and travel provide a total pattern interruption. They force the brain to stop processing the specific social structural noise of the rat race and switch to raw sensory input. And this is where your observation about money is cynical but accurate. Brendan the Cynic. Transcendence is not the only reliable way to flush the cash of your cognitive load. And peace of mind becomes a luxury commodity. Well, you need to have luxury. You're gonna have it. So then there's work versus a job versus labor and a career. What do you get in life? It's not always a question of development. It's political. It's political. And it's just something I want to toss out there as an aside. Labor is physical or repetitive output for survival. It's the floor of the system. The job is an administrative transaction, trading time for units of currency. Work is the actual application of skill, intellect, or craft. Career is long-term narrative trajectory. And the development is a threat to the political order. So, you may put your whole self into your survival and development, but your career is political. A human requires HVAC and heating. I hate to tell you this. Do not choose homelessness. I did not. I'm just unhoused currently. Motherfucker. Do not choose it. You will die a horrible death, a horrible heat death. There's physical reality in all of this. There's a narrow range where you exist or you'll die. It's called the thermodynamic envelope. If that envelope isn't maintained, you got HVAC, insulation, and controlled environments, the operating system totally crashes. You cannot perform high-level tasks. You cannot engage in work. Blah, blah, blah. You then hit environmental determinism. You're not deterministic, but if you are homeless, yeah. The fragile human. Your framework implies that the modern human has become an incredible fragile system. By building our entire lives around climate control modules, we have removed our ability to survive outside of them. We have outsourced our thermal regulation to the grid. Now, let's explore this with literature. Either plan a development narrative or just write one. Just write walking 10 minutes. Now let's see what we got. Don't use a notebook. Use the AI. So it's going to give an example. Phase 1 raw input. Phase 2 compile. Phase 3 runtime. Phase 4 reboot. Transcendent pivot. You just write. It does not have to be in prose. It does not have to be a story, because we're going to see what we got. I know what I'm going to do is write about some stuff that went wrong. I drank as a child, teen. It caused my stomach to be upset all the time. And in lieu of attending high school, oftentimes I read O'Reilly programming books at home, or just chatted with strangers via the net. On weekends, I played guitar in a band. The combination of vodka and guitar playing was fun, because it was a drug, but it almost killed me for 18. I put those dots there so I don't have to hit the enter button. It caused severe back-end development. And to this day, my shoulders seem slumped forward due to never training myself to sit upright in class. Anyway, like I said, at 18, the bass player for the band was arrested. I broke up with my high school sweetheart and never really got over it, but went to college after kinda sobering up. I noticed that I was wild and got respect as a teen. In college, I became angry and had to actually fight dykes, lesbians, Jewish students. And that kind of scares me. Anyway. I was stuck at home and just didn't develop as a worker because I'm naturally an aggressor and aggressor as well as a doormat, because the first is mostly illegal. The second is because I got my ass kicked in judo classes. So I'm fucked. Now, this manhood thing through curation. Curation is new. Beyond lifting, lifting is just lifting. I'm not doing it yet, but some man skills are reach, grab, reach, grab, pull, push, dominate, control, deep breathing, I'll say raw energy, penetration to some extent. So that's let's see what we got here. It's a raw and honest account of your developmental past history. By framing it this way, you aren't just recounting a past, you're running a diagnostic of where the system failed to compile correctly. When you describe those years, reading, coding, the alcohol, guitar, the isolation, you are describing an unmanaged growth cycle, the doormat versus aggressor paradox. Now, what we have is the beginnings of a memoir. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's write it as country gothic by romanticizing punk rock bands from nowhere, then selling out to the college experience. Yeah, it's no big deal. You would have to probably write the damn thing yourself, but we're playing with a memoir all of a sudden. An entropy protocol, so memoir. Static in the swamp. We lived, it's going to say the weird stuff. We lived in a thermodynamic equivalent of a closed loop. The garage was a concrete box with no HVAC. Just the stifling humid weight of a Georgia summer that made every breath feel like a mechanical failure. In that room, I wasn't Brandon. I was a processor running at 110% capacity, fueled by cheap vodka and a desperate need to exert force on the world. Like I said, it's not really going to be there. But you kind of have a backbone for it. Let's say, so you need a chronology of events, friends and enemies list, major events Like, you want to maybe talk about parenting style and sibling issues. Talk about dating, hobbies, games you played, favorite subjects, like hated teachers, and like really get into like fleshing out, because we're in the memoir backbone. We want to build the whole skeleton and then start fleshing it out. Childhood, learning the knife. Garage injury, mid-teens, vodka in the band, basis arrest and the breakup. That was huge because that took a lot of phone calls to get that joker in jail. He was on crack cocaine. College bullying led to a lot of anger. Now, whatever that is the nowhere kids. I like that. Talk about where those people are now in relation to yourself. Talk about marriage, kids, stuff like that. Your dreams, your hopes and ambitions at this point would be a way to maybe get started. You can always free write vignettes. It may be too hard to do at any point in time because your mama will get mad. That's my take on it.